Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Jennifer Bishop here, Fridays with Friends, doing something new. Because people's lives are so busy, I decided to start recording things. And so then I can record at different times and places to match our schedules. And it doesn't have to always be 2:30 on Friday Mountain Time because people have busy lives. So I'm super excited about this. And so why Fridays with Friends, how it started back in February of 2021. I have a lot of friends that are an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. That is where my heart is, helping entrepreneurs. And after the pandemic, like a whole bunch of my friends lost businesses, had to pivot, had to revamp how they were doing business. And so I was like, okay, how can I help other entrepreneurs? And decided on this Fridays with Friends. And so now here we are since February, have gone on almost every week. There's been a couple weeks that I've missed because of travel, like 2-3 weeks. I don't know when this is going to air. So which is cool. Like I'm going to have an arsenal of Fridays with Friends. And so I won't miss the Fridays with Friends now, no matter what I do. So yes. So I'm super excited to introduce you to you today to my newish friend. And it's been interesting because sometimes my Fridays with Friends are people I've known for my whole life. And sometimes they're all the way to that week. And friend is a term that you connect, people that you connect with. And so thank you, Michonne Williams, for introducing Joe LaPanna and I, because we met through a Facebook post. I know people are all down on Facebook, and I get that whole icky side of Facebook, but I'm sunshine. I'm Pollyanna. I'm like, how can we use something for good, anything for good? And so we met because Joe's dog Bonnie has a health issue, and Michonne's like, maybe my friend Jennifer and her products can possibly help your dog. And then we started talking, and I'm like, how did you know Michonne? And he's like, he tells me he was a sommelier, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love wine. So then he has another business. So, and that's what I want him to talk more about, but let me give you a little bio. I love asking people for their bios because I always find out such cool things. Even when I've known people for years and years and years, I find out some super fun things. So a little bit about Joe. So he grew up in Northern Virginia and still considers it home, graduated from the University of South Florida, degree in economics, one of those smarty pants. I'm like a touchy-feely social servicey person, and I respect and honor and love those smart people. Not that I don't I was in calculus my senior year of high school. So I get the whole math thing, but that's just as I've grown and gotten older, 54, cough, cough. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of more social services, but he studied in Italy, an Italian university of foreigners in, where is Paraguay?
Perugia.
Perugia. Where is that? See again.
Central part of the country. It's in Umbria.
Oh, I know Umbria.
Yeah, it's right in the heart of Umbria. The little town itself is famous for two things. One infamous, one famous thing. The famous thing is Perugina candies. You know, the little bocce candies.
Yes, that's Perugina.
That's where they come from. It's also infamous for that American woman who was accused of murdering her roommate in Italy. There was a big trial.
I do remember that. That's where that was.
We went to the same school I went to for my summer exchange program.
Oh my gosh.
He was there for me, but yeah, so now the town is sort of infamous for that, unfortunately. But
I think everyone should be able to should travel, because it gives you a different perspective of your life and your little bubble that you grow up in, especially from the States. Been very honored and blessed. Yes. So so then he switched gears after college and went into the hospitality and restaurant industry or business, worked for Taco Bell, Chili's, TGF Fridays, and then before landing Shell Seafood Restaurants. And then he became the GM, holy guacamoles, regional manager, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois. And then he started, he was the director of training for fishbowl marketing in Alexandria, Virginia. Beautiful. I've been there. Absolutely gorgeous. I always tell people, even though I've only lived in Colorado as my home address, I've been blessed to be able to travel. I'm definitely a lot more East Coast than West Coast. I love that whole, just was in Boston a couple weeks. Oh, it was just amazing. And then, oh my gosh. So then email marketing company focused on hospitality, over 200 national regional restaurant clients. And then founding, I love this. It's like, oh my goodness, founding executive team members for Vina Vola, San Francisco Bay. So then you went to the other side of the whole country, right?
Well, I didn't live, my office was there. I
Okay.
lived on the coast and traveled a lot.
Back and forth. Yeah.
Well,
And then
we opened locations in airports all over the United States. So it didn't really matter where I was based, as long as I could get to an airport and travel. I bounced around the country like a pachinko ball.
we'll talk more about that. And then finally on here, took a role as director of operations for Texas Roadhouse in the Middle East. That had to be super interesting. Like, you were so interested, like just the couple times that we've talked, I'm like, wow, this guy's really interesting. Founder of Digital Rhino Consulting, small business consultant, and works with clients nationally. And then now what you're doing as an entrepreneur as well. And all of those experiences make you who you are today. So without further ado, like I said, I love bios. And then what I do is once I get them, and then I put up that bio in that contacts information, in their contact information. And then I know a lot more about people because it's so interesting. I know you gave me more of your business side, and maybe we'll touch on some personal side too. I never know where these interviews are going to go, but I ask the same two questions every week. What's your story and why do you do what you do? So without further ado, Joe, take it away.
Well, my story is it's all wrapped around that restaurant stuff. And it was interesting. I graduated with an economics degree in the middle of a recession. Not the best time to have an economics degree and not the best time to graduate from college. And I went out and I got my first quote office job, and I worked my way through college in the restaurant industry. So I cooked, I bartended, I waited tables, kind of did it all. And I loved it. I was a very people person in that respect. I enjoyed, interacting with people. And I took this job where I was sitting in a cubicle and just my brain would be numb every day when I'd go home. And I just realized at some point sitting there in my cubicle that A, I made more money in the restaurant industry, and B, I had a lot more fun doing it. And I thought, and C, I was good at it. Not to break my arm, pat myself on the back, but I was good at what I did in the restaurant industry. So I figure there's a lot of people with degrees that never use what they, went to school for. It was a good thing to have, and it's always nice to have your degree in your back pocket if you ever need to pull it out and beat somebody with it. But I've never had to do that, and I made the direct turn into the restaurant industry, and I spent 25 years there, and it was really quite fortuitous. I mean, I never imagined that the restaurant industry would literally have me travel the world. My parents moved to Florida after my dad retired, and that's how I ended up in Florida. But I always considered Northern Virginia home. But then I became a restaurant nomad. I lived in Kentucky. I lived in Ohio. I lived in, all over the place. I lived in the Middle East. Who knew that the restaurant industry would take me that far away? I lived in Napa Valley for a while. And as a wine person, that's sort of the holy grail, if you will, to end up there. And so, I've traveled a lot, and I used to enjoy travel. I think I got to a point where everybody thinks traveling for work is glamorous. I could write a book of some horror stories of, arriving at an airport and the rental car place is closed because you got there late, or going to check into your hotel room and you're trying to swipe the key and it's not working, and somebody opens the door and they're like, "This is my room," and I'm like, "No, it's my room." And it's just so many crazy stories. I mean, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. I mean, yes, I was lucky. I traveled to fun places for work, but there were
But you're
times when
working.
yeah, you're working, and there were times I just wanted to stay at home and make sure my couch still worked. And
Amen.
I mean, people were like, "Hey, we're going to go on vacation. You want to come with us?" I'm like, "No, I'm taking the week off and I'm going to ride a hammock in my backyard because I don't want to get on another plane, train, or automobile for a long time." I was on the road about 225 days a year.
That's a lot. That is a
Yeah.
lot of travel time.
When you can claim that you were a platinum member with both Starwood and Marriott in the same year, 5 years running, when they were two separate programs, that's a lot of travel.
That is a lot. That's a badge of honor. I don't know. I don't know if it's honor. It's a lot of work. Yeah, no, absolutely.
It was, but I mean, I traveled to exciting places, and with Vino Volo, we were opening locations in airports all over the United States, and they were bigger cities for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So our first store was in Dulles. That was close to my home. Our second store was in Seattle, and Seattle was such a great city yeah. Well, to give you an idea of why I traveled as much as I did with Vino Volo. So our first let me take you through the first 7 stores: Dulles, Seattle, Sacramento, Baltimore, JFK, Philadelphia, Detroit, San Antonio. So in the first 3 years, we surrounded the country. And I was just, especially when we had a new store opening going on, I'd be somewhere for 3 weeks and come home for 2 days and unpack, do laundry, sort the mail into piles, repack, and hit the road again. And that was life. I mean, I have Bonnie now. I had Bonnie and Clyde before, but I could barely keep fish alive when I had,
Well, yeah. Or
imagine.
plants, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, plants,
No.
I've got black thumbs. I could kill a plastic ficus tree. So you don't want to leave me in charge of your foliage. It won't. But yeah, it was a lot. And when I worked for Fishbowl, I traveled, but that was a lot. It was maybe once or twice a month. I'd be gone for 2 or 3 days to do a launch with a new brand, or to go to a GM conference to, connect with the stores and the people and whatnot. It wasn't the extensive travel. And that was actually kind of fun, because it was like gone for a couple of days and you come home and you're, in Vegas with the Maggiano's GM conference, playing golf and having fun,
like,
big
woohoo.
babies kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Got to be a little different when it was Vino Volo and you're trying to open stores and win airport contracts and, getting fingerprinted 20 something times.
Yeah.
I always tell people I'm the world's safest blind date, because I've had over 25 FBI background checks on me and they've never found the bodies. So
There you go. You're good. You're good to go, right?
Yeah.
So how did that lead into what you do now?
Well, I got to a point in the industry, when you get high enough up in the food chain, it's not like, yeah, it didn't even mean that pun, but
Hey, see, you're funny and you didn't even know it.
but when you get to that executive level, changing jobs gets to be a challenge. It's not like when you're a manager at a store and everybody's looking for a manager, they'll hire you in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding the right position. And when I came back from the Middle East, so I spent 8 years traveling with Vino Volo, took the company from 0 to 40 locations, and was on the road a lot. Home on the East Coast, office on the West Coast, and stuff everywhere in between. I then went to the Middle East and I ran all the Texas Roadhouse restaurants there, and that was a franchise group that was over there. But I had 9 restaurants in 4 countries, but I was also developing restaurants in 4 additional countries. Plus, I didn't travel quite as much. I was probably down to about 50% travel. But when you're traveling internationally through the Middle East, it's very cumbersome. It's just painful to experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got you want to hear some funny stories, I'll tell you a couple traveling there. But when I came back to the States, I was really looking for a job where I didn't have to travel. And at that level, it's hard to find something where they're not going to put you on a plane or a train and send you somewhere every other day.
Yeah.
And
I have a lot of friends that travel a lot. I mean, yeah, yeah.
so I ended up out in California, staying with a friend of mine, trying to figure out what I wanted to do if I ever grew up. And I did end up taking a GM role. I took a huge step back for a company that I didn't realize was in financial trouble. Um, and I just realized after I'd been there for a while, yes, it was a lot easier to run one store and come home and, cook my own dinner and watch my own TV and that kind of thing. It was very hard to work for other people that just didn't understand how to run a business. And I don't mean to say that,
No.
they ran the business into the ground. It's gone. Big company, Dean and DeLuca, it's gone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember Dean and DeLuca. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I ran the store in St. Helena, California. Big store, $13 million a year property. And, they weren't paying their bills, and St. Helena stopped picking up my garbage 3 separate times. I literally had to do business with the Russian mafia out of Oakland to come pick up my garbage a couple of times. But, they were just such a mess. And I also realized I didn't like babysitting anymore. And I realized why I had gone into upper management. But I just kind of grew out of the industry. But I also realized that I learned a lot along the way running businesses the way I did. I mean, I grew Vino Volo as the vice president of operations, reporting directly to the CEO of the company for 8 years. And we had to pivot. When we first opened Vino Volo, it was prior to the liquid ban. Our first store opened at Dulles Airport. There was no such thing as a liquid ban. We were getting ready to open store 2 in Seattle when the shoe bomber hit and caused that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, we had to rethink the entire model while we were in construction of store number 2.
Yep.
And whole brand. And I realized that I've learned a lot along the way, and I decided to start Digital Rhino Consulting as a way to help other small businesses that struggle and don't have the resources to reach out and hire these big companies to come in and help them with marketing, financing, develop all of those things I've done in my past.
Yeah. And that's, using what you've learned right before, you're just saving people several of your pain, the pain you went through that you don't have to have them go through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of my mantras is, if you're going to walk through a minefield, follow somebody. And believe me, I've walked a lot of minefields.
Don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, people have gone through it. And if we can give people an experience, help them through, then I think that's what we're called to do. And I think more and more, even now, especially with what's going on in America, well, in the world, it's so important to have your own business. It really, the tax write-offs, I just did a Facebook Live on how I take off my, if you're a lady, I don't know, or maybe there's men that get their nails done. So I put my little logo on my fingernail and I'm able to write it off as marketing. Like, that's what I love about being an entrepreneur. You can take expenses or things that you normally would do, right? And then write them off as a business expense. And it's legal and it's ethical. And I had a friend that was like, that's not ethical. And I'm like, why isn't it? Like, yes, it is.
If I buy a boat, I live on the water in Ocean City, Maryland, and on the bay. If I buy a boat, which is on my plan, all I have to do is put one client on my boat, take him for a boat ride. I guess what I get to write off.
Yeah. I wish more people would, like, I think people, well, back in the day, it was like, you go to school, you get a good job, you work for, and you retire. That the 40-year plan, 40, you work 40 hours a week, 40 years to retire on 40%, which most people can't make. And so that's one of my big things. My dad was an entrepreneur, so I didn't necessarily grow up with that mentality, but most of my friends did. And it's okay. But nowadays, I think the average work span is like 4 years. It's probably even shorter with the pandemic last year.
Today, when my dad was military, so it's not a great example because people go in the military and it's sort of a long-term thing anyway. But the days of people going to work for a factory or for in a sales career for some company and spending their entire career with one company, we're a society of job hoppers. Everybody's looking for hey,
bigger, better deal.
You get a nickel more, you're jumping ship and going to collect that nickel. And it's just very different than.
Well, and do you think that companies value employees like they used to either?
I really don't. I think there are some small businesses that do, but the bigger the company, it's very rare to find the company that has those kind of values, that has that mission statement that's about the people. I had the good fortune. I've worked for a lot of different restaurant companies. Obviously, it's not an industry where it's again very rare to see somebody that's been with a company for a long time. I think 8 years is the longest I lasted anywhere in my career. 6 years before that. But I worked for a company for a period of time, and they had a great mentality, and that mentality was the employee came first, the business came second, and the customer came third. And I know to a lot of people that's sort of backwards. You're supposed to put the customer
first. Yeah.
Here's the problem with that. If the business fails, you don't have any customers. And in order for the business to succeed, as a manager, as somebody running the business, my customer is not the customer. My customer is the employee. Mm-hmm. And it's my job to make sure that that employee is happy and safe at work. And if I can provide an environment where they want to come to work every day, guess who they're going to put first? The customer. Yeah. But the employee has to do what they do in order to take care of that customer. And we have to run the business efficiently so we don't go out of business, so we can have customers. And so I still run into people in the industry that will argue with me, want to fight me over that mentality. And I'm like, if that's the way you want to run your business, great. I'm here to try.
You're not my client. Like, you're not my people. Yeah, exactly. No, I love that. And I think, what's the saying? When you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. It's like, you have to stand for something, personally, business-wise, professionally, whatever, because if you don't, then there's nothing, there's nothing, right there. Yeah, no, yes. So
I'm a big proponent of a win-win situation. There should never be a situation in business where one person wins and one person loses. That's not a valuable transaction that's ever going to repeat itself.
Yeah.
And so I've always looked for those win-win situations, regardless of where I am or what I'm doing.
No, I went to school to be a divorce and child custody mediator. And to me, it was very interesting. I came from the social services side, not the attorney side. And most mediators are attorneys. They come from that background. And for me, it was like, that's not a really good fit, because most attorneys are taught win-lose, right? Yeah. And if you're social services, it's win-win. And I'm like, I loved that. Then my husband was diagnosed with ALS, and that changed my whole direction. But I went through all that schooling, and I agree, Joe. I'm like, I love that mentality, that win-win mentality, because why not? I think I posted something on Facebook recently. I'm not in competition with you. I want us all to win. And that's truly how I live my life. I'm like, I'm not in competition with anyone. I want everybody to win, and everybody can. I truly believe that. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for Rhino marketing, who do you serve? Like, who are the, I know you were saying, but like, what size companies or small business, or where's your optimal client?
My optimal client is anybody who has a P&L, number one. So
profit and loss. I guess if you don't know what P&L is, then that might not be your target market.
Yeah, they probably need more help than I can offer them. It's really funny when I'm looking for clients too, because you go in to see somebody, and if they've got their act together and they're running a really good business, they are usually open to listening to what I have to say. They probably don't really need my help, but it seems to like the smarter business people are open to listening to what you have to say. And then they kind of look at you, well, I'm in pretty good shape, and maybe you can tweak this, or maybe you can tweak that, or help me with a marketing program, or, there's always something I can do to help somebody, but there's a lot less I need to do for that person. Mm-hmm. And then you turn around and you go in a business where the person's just flailing, and they don't want to listen to you. They don't want you to tell them anything. It's like shooting pool with a rope. It just doesn't work, and it's sad, because those are the people that need my help.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I guess
I've industry that you like to work with more.
Well, I tend to work with the restaurants a lot more.
Because that's your wheelhouse, right?
go, but a P&L is a P&L. I don't care whether you sell auto parts or crab cakes. You know, you still have inventory. If you have a business where you have customers that come through your door, you deal with customers in some way, shape, or form, I can help. I do a lot of different things. I joke that I sell everything except for extended car warranties, because those people are annoying on the phone. But I do payroll services. I can set you up with, if depending on your state, deregulated energy contracts and save you money on your gas and electric bill. I do something called cost segregation, which is a way of looking at your depreciation. If you own a building or if you've done tenant improvements in the building you're in, I can save you a ton of money up front in the next 2 years. Credit card processing, marketing services. I mean, there's so many different things. If you need to borrow money, I work with a alternative lending company that I can connect you and put you in whatever. It's not just one product. I can match your needs up to what they offer.
Connector. I love it.
So,
That's what I do. I'm a connector
yeah.
too. I'm like, I love that. Yeah.
So, whatever your issue is, my first goal is always to save somebody money. So if I can walk in and say, hey, let's look at your gas and electric bill. We're in the state of Maryland. We're deregulated in both. I could probably save you 10% across the board. For a restaurant, that's a big chunk of change, because
Yeah.
the grill and the fryers are on all day. The electric's on all day, or running, Let's look at your credit card statement. Are you getting charged all kinds of junk fees? I will only work with companies that are straight up, no junk fees. All you're paying is interchange rates. If I can save you $1,500 to $3,000 a month right off the bat, I have a pretty good shot of kind of coming back a couple of weeks later and saying, all right, now that you've seen some savings, let's reinvest some of that in some marketing programs and drive some traffic in your door.
Yeah. Without customers, we're not, I know that, right?
$3,000 a month and I'm asking them to spend $500. It's a lot easier than if I just went in and said, hey, I got a marketing program. You got $500 extra bucks to spend. They look at you like, nope, not in this economy.
Well,
But
and that's the thing, right?
saving,
Yeah. Yeah.
wins. They don't know who I am. I can
Right.
show them a resume. I can talk about where I've been and what I've done, but until I show results, I don't expect them to believe me.
Yep. Show me the money. Yeah. No, absolutely. No.
I'll put them the line and I won't ask you for a dime until I've saved you some money. And when I've saved you some money, then I'm probably going to come back and say, all right, let's reinvest in your business.
Yeah.
Let's not put all that savings in your pocket. Yeah, let's pay down some debt or whatever you got to do. But, I can show you on a P&L how it makes more sense to drive top line sales than to nitpick and nickel and dime your P&L to death. So,
where to focus, right? Where to focus is so important. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm so excited we met. Like I said, I never know where, we'll post down below in Facebook, like how to get a hold of Joe. Again, my sole purpose is about service on here. And I never know. I'm blessed to have a good Facebook following, and you just never know who you're going to introduce, who knows, somebody who, right?
yeah.
And that is really my sole purpose in doing these Fridays with Friends. And it's been cool to hear some stories of people that have used and have done business with, not used, done business with the person with my Fridays with Friends people. And like I said, I'm like, you never know. I just I give it to God. It's a Sunday. I'm doing this on Sunday before I go to church. Because that's what worked. And that's what I love about owning your own business. People, I'm like, I don't do business and I do have my time, but also when you own your own business, you get to own your time. And I love what I get, I get to do life with who I want, when I want, and where I want. And I'm so blessed to be able to do that.
I can make it up on Tuesday if I want, because that's my deal.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's, there's a lot of people that have money, but no time, and a lot of people that have time and no money. And that's, I've been blessed to build this team, right? I think I was telling you, it's like over 3,500 people. And it's my time, and it's their business. It's my business. I help people with their business, and that's like what you do. You help people with their business as well. So
I try. It's a
that's
matter of
all
getting,
we can do, right? That's all we can do. You have to get willing participants that raise their hand, self-select and say, me, I need, I'm looking for something different. I'm looking for something more, and asking help is not weakness. That's a strength.
yeah, I do some public speaking, some motivational sales speaking for a couple of organizations that I work with. And that's one of the things I talk about is have a coach, have a mentor, no matter what you do or what level you're at. One of my other mantras is I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm a lifelong learner. I read constantly. And well, I take that back. I listen to books constantly because I'm in the car a lot. And that's where I do my reading or listening. But I believe in being a student of life, and everything you do, you can learn. I can learn from bad experiences probably better than I learn from good experiences. But
Absolutely.
I look at managers I've had in the past that I worked for, and I learned more from the ones that did a horrible job than the ones that did a great job, because I learned what not to do.
Right. Right. No,
And
100%. Again, that's why I connect. I think that's what I love about entrepreneurs the best is, like, you have to keep being relevant, right? You have to continue. And I'm with you. I think, gosh, a couple months ago, I was already at 3,000 minutes on Audible, many months ago. I'm like, I don't know how to pull that up on Audible, but I think I've read like 15, 20 books already this year. Yeah. And I'm always every day, that's part of my
yeah,
DMO, my daily method of operations, listen to at least 30 minutes of something. And I'm a shelf helper. I call it shelf help.
yeah.
So,
No,
um,
I like what you just said, because there's a quote, and I'm trying to remember how it exactly went, but it's something to the tune of, if you don't like change, you're going to like your relevance even less.
amen. Right. But
And people don't understand just how important it is to be willing to change.
yeah,
I
change is
mean,
the
if
only
you have,
constant.
if the
Change
last
is
two
the
years
only
have
constant.
the last 2 years haven't taught you how much the world can change on a dime,
Yep. March
then
14th.
yeah, you don't get
Everything
it.
changed March 14th. I was at lunch and everything shut down that next day. I just, yeah. And what you didn't think was going to happen, happened. My son, Eagle Scout, Marine Reservist, and that be prepared. I was like, yeah, I mean, it served us well, be prepared. So, well, Joe, sorry, on your thing, it says Joseph. So, and I won't yeah, but I wanted to thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Time to do
And
this, inviting me
yeah,
on. I feel honored to be here. So thank you.
I'm excited. And like I said, you never know where the relationship goes, who, maybe your next big client came from, like, you just never know, like, or I don't know, at least we've connected. So,
And if nothing comes out of it, we've had a great conversation, and
yes,
that. So I'm happy
yeah,
with that.
I know. And you never know. Sommelier too. You're still like, once a sommelier, it's still in there. You don't lose that.
No, I drink my fair share of wine, so I keep myself current.
I had a nice glass last night with a friend. We were listening to some music, live music, and her and I had this nice glass of wine. It was nice. Yeah.
And it's Sunday, so they invented brunch so that we could have wine with breakfast.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. When I post this, I'll put the links down for you and ways that people can get in touch with you. And I've been praying for Bonnie. I'm like, poor
Thank you.
Bonnie. I
She's
know.
doing good, getting better every day. And
Good.
I just wish she would get a little bit more adventurous. She sort of has her little safe area in the house where she tends to focus and stay.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, when you
but
lose your sight, it's like, it's scary. I can't even imagine. I can't even
uh,
imagine.
I feel so helpless. I mean, I know her favorite thing in the world was to swim, and I guess she can still swim, but I can't, throw something for her to go fetch anymore. And I just know how much she used to enjoy that. But I will take her to the beach or to the bay and wander out in the water with her on a long leash and let her paddle around, and
Give her that
just try
excitement
to
and fun.
life.
Yeah.
It's just,
Awesome.
we have to live it on with some limitations now, that's all.
Yep, yep. And maybe she'll find something else that she likes to do that she didn't even know that was out there. I don't know.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Have a fabulous day.
Dude,
And
thank
I'm sure we'll connect soon. And I'll let you know when I post when this comes. It could be this next Friday. I have somebody, but like stuff happens. So now I'm gonna like start having these in my little thing. And I'll send you the recording too, and you can put it on your Facebook. You never know.
I'll just wait till you post it and then I
Okay.
will
Link
share
it.
it. Yeah, I'll
Awesome.
share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, Joe. Take care.
Thank-
Have a great day.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye.